When you're working with Chinese cabbage, you really need to know what your recipe is calling for because there are two different kinds of cabbage that fall under that category. One is Napa cabbage, and it is crisper, works great in cabbage slaws and things like that. And the other one is Bok Choy, or white cabbage, which is sometimes referred to, or white celery. This is the one we're going to be using today. Now, as you can see, it has very long stems that resemble celery stems and can in fact be used in many of the same ways. The difference is they're not stringy, and of course they taste a little bit different. Then it has these massive green leaves that are similar to other kinds of greens, like chard in particular, have a little bit more of a peppery taste, and can be used in most recipes where cabbage would be called for, or in the case of the leaves where chard is. One of the interesting things about this vegetable is that the leaves don't melt down to nothing like spinach does. You know, you put it into steam with just the water retained on the leaves, and you completely fill the pot, and you come back and there's a half a cup left. Well, these are going to hold up, so you're going to get pretty closer to what you started with when you're finished cooking, so you need to remember that as you fill the pot with these. The stems, of course, are going to take longer to cook than the leaves are, so in most cases we're going to separate the two and add them at different times. Another thing you need to know about, like most vegetables that grow near the ground and that have a lot of hidey holes, there's a lot of dirt in here. And so when you're cleaning it, you'll think if you just do this much that you've got the whole thing cleaned off and you're ready to go. But inevitably, if you pull a stalk back, you're going to find it loaded with dirt. So you do need to separate it all and scrub it down well. Use a couple of changes of water, retain that water for other uses in the garden, but you do need to make sure that you get it clean all the way through. There aren't as many crevices in the leaves as with some more crinkly vegetables, so they're not as hard to clean, but you do need to check all of the stem areas to make sure that they're all cleaned up for you. What I'm going to do today is a bok choy and chicken soup, and it's done in the slow cooker, which you may think at this time of year is really not necessary, but a lot of us have the same amount or more activities during the summertime as we do in the winter and fall when soup might be more thought of. And something hot for dinner actually can help you feel cooler at the end of the day too. So we're going to do this in a slow cooker. I've sprayed the slow cooker with a little bit of non-stick vegetable spray because I don't want anything to stick around the edges. So I've taken care of that. I've got 2 cups of sliced mushrooms. Now remember, when you're using a slow cooker, that the vegetables need to go on the bottom because they actually cook more slowly than the meat will. Then I've got the 2 cups of sliced bok choy leaves and stems. Notice that I've cut them up in strips. Just roll the leaf and cut, and then cut the stems. You're going to find that the stems cook up nice and creamy, and the leaves get a little bit more peppery flavor to them. All right, that goes in there. I've got a medium onion that's been chopped up, and 2 medium carrots that we've chopped up as well. And then on top of that, I'm going to put in a pound of chicken breast. This was skinless, boneless chicken breast, but you can chop up a whole chicken if you'd prefer. Cut them up into pretty much bite-sized pieces. Remember, you'll have some shrinkage during the cooking process. And separate them a little bit because we don't want to have to stir it later in order to get it mixed through. All right, now on top of that, we're going to make a sauce to go over that. And for that, we're going to use 4 cloves of garlic. And you may be going, that's a lot. And I find that the garlic that goes as it cooks in a slow cooker gets a much more pronounced flavor and a different flavor. It's less sharp, but I find it to be fairly strong. If you're one of those people that don't particularly appreciate that, then go ahead and cut back on the garlic. Some cloves are a lot larger than others, so just use your preference here. Another thing we're going to add, because bok choy is originally, we think of it with Chinese food and Asian food primarily. I've got 2 teaspoons of grated fresh ginger that are going to go in this. I've got a tablespoon of toasted sesame oil, and if you don't have that, you could leave it out, but it does add a nice flavor later on. And then 2 tablespoons of reduced sodium soy sauce. I'm going to blend these together fairly well. And then I'm going to stir in, 3.5 cups of chicken broth. And this could be either broth that you've made yourself or a couple of cans of low sodium, low fat chicken broth from the supermarket. This is going to go over the vegetables. Now you can cook this on high for about 8 hours, or you can cook it on low for 4 to 5 hours. And then we're going to add some rice to it. Now I have another one that's already up to this stage, and so we'll look and see what the next step is. If I can move it forward just a little bit. The cord is holding me back here. You can see this one has cooked on low for, actually closer to 5 hours. And you can see the changes that have taken place. Each of the vegetables is still separate. You can still see the bok choy there. Bok choy is extremely high in calcium as far as vegetables go. It's the highest calcium vegetable that we have. It's also very high in vitamin A. I think a serving of it, which is about 1.5 cups raw, would give you about 60% of the vitamin A that you need. And then with the carrots and whatnot in here, you're doing quite well. I'm using instant rice. I've got a cup of instant rice. This is going to go in here and cook for about 5 minutes. Now, if you're not fond of instant rice, you could use cooked regular rice, and you just need to bring it up to heat at this point. You could cook up a batch of brown rice and then just stir it in and warm it. We're going to use instant and cover it for about 5 minutes. It doesn't take very long for the rice to soften up because it's actually pre-cooked and dried. So all it really needs to do is be rehydrated at this point. We're going to serve up big helping bowls full. Now keep in mind that research is showing that with animals at least, and hopefully with humans as well, that eating as little as a half a head of cabbage a day can reduce your risk of breast cancer as well as colon cancer and rectal cancer. This is a nice way to get a start at incorporating some of those vegetables. Nobody ever really expects you to eat a half a head of any one thing a day, but as the research shows that many different kinds of things help reduce your cancer risk, getting that 5 a day and combining it with lots of different things can go a long way to making you healthy for a long time. For Oklahoma Gardening, this is Barbara Brown.